Better English podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the How to Better English podcast, the show dedicated to helping you smooth out those tricky edges of the English language. I'm Liam.
And I'm Emma. It's great to be back with you all, Liam.
It is, Emma. I'm feeling particularly cozy today, which is perfect because we're diving into a very important and often overlooked area of consistent English practice, establishing effective evening routines.
Absolutely. Many learners spend all their energy during the daylight hours in classes, at work, or drilling grammar, but the evening is actually a golden opportunity for consolidation, reflection, and low-stress practice.
It really is. Before we dive into how you can effectively use those final hours of the day to solidify your English knowledge, a quick request to our fantastic listeners.
If you enjoy what we do here and find our tips helpful, please take a moment to subscribe, like this episode, and share it with other learners. Your support helps the podcast reach more people who are also on their journey to English fluency.
Thank you so much for that. Now, Emma, when we talk about evening routines, we aren't suggesting people pull out their textbooks and start a heavy 3-hour grammar session right before bed, are we?
Heavens, no. That is exactly what we are trying to avoid. The goal of an evening routine is twofold. First, to ensure continuity of practice, and second, to signal to your brain that it's time to unwind. That word, unwind, is crucial here.
Unwind. It means to relax after a period of work or tension, doesn't it? Like unspooling a thread.
Exactly. When we talk about language learning in the evening, we are aiming for methods that are relaxing and enjoyable, allowing the learning process to be passive or very low-effort, active practice. This low-effort learning is surprisingly powerful for memory consolidation.
I've heard that term before, memory consolidation. Can you explain why practicing English just before sleep is so beneficial from a neurological standpoint?
Certainly. While we sleep, our brain actively works to consolidate short-term memories into long-term storage. If the last thing you expose your brain to is new English vocabulary or a complex structure, your brain is more likely to process and file that information effectively during the night. It's like leaving the filing cabinet drawer open with the folders ready to be organized.
That's a fantastic analogy. So, instead of doom scrolling through social media or watching fast-paced thrillers, we should be feeding our brains English content that prepares it for this filing process.
Precisely. Let's start with what I call passive input routines. These are perfect for the moment you decide to really settle down. Maybe you're making tea, or getting ready for bed, or just sinking into the couch.
Passive input sounds great. What's the number one recommendation here?
Podcasts, of course. But not just any podcast. Look for podcasts that match your current interest but are designed to be calming. Maybe a history podcast, or a nature discussion, or even a slow-paced narration of classic literature. The key is setting the playback speed slightly slower than normal, perhaps 0.9x.
That slight slowing down makes a world of difference for comprehension, especially when your brain is already tired from a day of work. You're not trying to decipher every word, you're just letting the rhythm and the flow wash over you.
Right. And you shouldn't worry if you miss words. This is ambient English practice. The exposure matters more than perfect understanding. Think of it as creating a soft English bubble around your relaxation time.
I know many learners use music to unwind. Could English audiobooks replace music during this time?
Absolutely, and I would argue they are much better if your goal is language practice. Audiobooks are excellent for practicing listening to sustained narrative and consistent vocal tones. If you're a mid-level learner, choose a book you have already read in your native language.
That's genius. If you know the plot already, you can focus your cognitive energy entirely on the language nuances, the idioms, the phrasing, and the descriptive vocabulary, instead of trying to keep track of who the characters are and what they are doing.
It minimizes the stress. We want the brain to feel safe and relaxed. Cozy genres like easy memoirs, gentle nonfiction, or even children's stories work wonderfully. think of stories that make you feel that lovely feeling of being tucked in.
The feeling of being tucked in is great. This transition phase where you're moving from the active day to restful sleep is also a great time to implement the second major strategy, active reflection.
This is where we introduce the concept of reflect and recharge. Reflection is a necessary process for mental clarity, and pairing it with English practice offers immense benefits.
Let's talk about journaling. It's a very popular suggestion, but how can we make English journaling relaxing, not just another homework assignment?
The key is context and brevity. This isn't a 5-page essay, it's 5 minutes of quiet thought captured in English. A perfect reflective routine is what I call the 3-minute daily recap.
Tell us about the 3-minute daily recap.
You simply ask yourself 3 questions in English. First, what is one thing I accomplished today? Second, what is one new word or phrase I heard today? And third, what is one thing I'm looking forward to tomorrow?
That's highly structured, which actually makes it less daunting than staring at a blank page. You're forced to produce immediate, relevant language.
Exactly, and the magic happens in question 2. If you consciously hunt for one new piece of vocabulary you encounter during the day, maybe from that podcast, a conversation, or a news article, and then use it in the journal, you are ensuring immediate reinforcement.
So, if I learned the word exhilarating earlier, I would write, I found the view from the rooftop today truly exhilarating.
Perfect. You've activated that word twice in a 24-hour period, once upon exposure and once before sleep. That significantly increases the chance of it moving into your active vocabulary. This active process of reflection helps you integrate vocabulary organically.
The depth of reflection doesn't always have to be about the day's events either, does it? Sometimes reflecting on abstract concepts is useful.
That's right. For more advanced learners, reflection can involve short opinion pieces. Instead of journaling about what you did, journal about what you think. Spend 5 minutes writing your opinion on a mild topic such as, why is reading fiction important? Or, what is the best way to spend a rainy Sunday?
I love that. It forces the use of opinion phrases. In my view, I strongly believe, it seems to me, which are vital for conversational fluency.
And it's low stakes. No one else is going to read it. You can make grammatical mistakes. The goal is fluency of thought in the target language. This practice is fundamentally about training your internal monologue to operate in English.
That's a fascinating concept, training your internal monologue. If you're constantly thinking and processing in English, even when you're relaxing, you never truly stop practicing.
Exactly. And let's revisit that key word, reflect. To reflect means to think deeply or carefully about something. In the context of language learning, it means taking stock of your learning, seeing what worked and what needs more attention. Synonyms might include contemplate, muse, or ponder.
So, if I'm practicing reflecting, I'm not just reviewing vocabulary, I'm contemplating how I learned it, or musing on the quality of my conversation earlier in the day.
Yes, and sometimes the reflection exercise can be purely auditory. If writing feels like too much effort, a voice recording is a great alternative. Open your phone's voice memo app and talk for 1 minute about your day.
That brings in speaking practice without the anxiety of a real conversation partner. You can just talk freely, stumble, correct yourself, and then delete the recording if you want to. It's safe practice.
It is. This active reflection phase shouldn't last more than 10 to 15 minutes. It should be brief enough to not interrupt the relaxation process.
We've covered passive input, podcasts/audiobooks, and active reflection, journaling, voice memos. What about media consumption? We mentioned not watching fast thrillers, but surely short, high-quality media is a great way to unwind.
Definitely. This is where we integrate our third word, recharge. To recharge means to restore energy. Learning can be tiring, and the evening routine should restore your mental reserves while keeping English running quietly in the background.
So, what kind of short media is optimal for language recharge?
I'm a huge fan of short educational content. Think TED Talks, but maybe the lighter, more philosophical ones. 5 to 8 minute segments are perfect. You get a complete idea, rich vocabulary, and stimulating content, but it's over before you feel mentally drained.
And crucially, we need to talk about subtitles here. When should a learner use them in the evening, and when should they switch them off?
That's a highly strategic decision. If you are watching media with the goal of recharging and just enjoying the flow, turn the subtitles off. You want to train your ears to accept sound without relying on the written confirmation. This is pure listening stamina practice.
But what if you encounter a segment that uses very specific technical language that you absolutely want to catch?
Then switch them on temporarily, maybe just for that segment, and then switch them back off immediately. We want to avoid what I call the reading trap, where you are essentially just reading the transcript while ignoring the spoken words.
The reading trap is real. It tricks us into thinking we are practicing listening when we are actually just practicing reading speed.
Yes. Remember, the goal of this evening routine is relaxation and consolidation. If reading subtitles means you are staring intensely at the screen and furrowing your brow, you are not unwinding, you are studying.
That's a great distinction. The energy levels required for evening practice should be minimal.
Minimal indeed. Let's expand a little on media choices. Many people love YouTube, but YouTube is full of highly distracting content. The key is curating your evening feed. Follow channels that use clear, descriptive English and focus on calming topics, cooking demonstrations, light nature documentaries, or instructional videos on relaxing hobbies like painting or knitting.
I know some learners who keep the video playing on their tablet while they prepare their clothes for the next day or organize their desk. That's passive listening combined with a necessary daily task.
That's excellent time management and great modeling of real-life language exposure. We are rarely able to give 100% of our focus to everything we hear in life. Practicing multitasking while listening prepares you for real-world interactions.
We talked a lot about reinforcement. Is there any room for very light grammar review? Not drilling, but reviewing.
Absolutely, but only if you genuinely enjoy that aspect of language learning. Some people find structure calming. If you learned a particularly tricky grammatical concept, say, the difference between I wish I were and I wish I was earlier that day, spend 3 minutes before bed simply rereading the role and looking at 1 or 2 example sentences.
You're not testing yourself. You're just letting the rule sink in one last time.
Precisely. It's like dusting off the concept before your brain goes into consolidation mode. You want to make sure the concept is clean and ready for filing.
Let's shift to making this routine a habit. What are the key practical steps to ensure consistency? Because the biggest challenge with routines is actually sticking to them.
The most important practical tip is the anchor event. Tie your English practice to something you do every single night without fail. Maybe it's brushing your teeth, making your final cup of tea, or dimming the lights.
So, if my anchor event is making tea, then as soon as the kettle boils, I know I must immediately put on my 10-minute English podcast.
That's it. By linking the new habit, English listening, to the established habit, making tea, your brain automatically triggers the routine without needing willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, and it's often depleted by the evening.
And what about creating the right environment? We associate evening routines with low lights, quiet, and comfort. How does that environment benefit our English practice?
It optimizes the state of mind for reception. When your environment is comfortable and peaceful, your stress hormones drop. Stress is a huge inhibitor of memory formation. If you feel calm and physically comfortable, your brain is far more receptive to absorbing information. So, dim the lights, put on some comfortable clothes, and grab that warm drink. You are physically signaling to your body, it's time to unwind and absorb.
We should also address the duration. If a learner is tired, should they force themselves to complete the full 15 minutes of reflection or listening?
No, never force it. The 10-minute rule applies here. If you are absolutely exhausted, tell yourself you will only do 10 minutes. More often than not, Once you start those 10 minutes, you'll find you can continue for longer. But if you truly can't, 10 minutes of focused, restful practice is infinitely better than 0 minutes, or 30 minutes of stressed, counterproductive study.
It's about respecting the need to recharge, isn't it? If we stress ourselves out trying to achieve a perfect English routine, the routine will fail because the stress associated with it becomes too high.
Precisely. We need to remember the holistic goal, to use the evening routine not just to practice English, but to practice using English in a way that contributes positively to our mental health and restfulness. It's a language learning method that supports overall well-being.
That balance is crucial. Let's look at some specific advanced reflection exercises for learners who are already comfortable journaling.
A great exercise is future projection. Spend 5 minutes writing about your plans for the following day, but use advanced tenses or complex sentence structures. For example, instead of "I will go to work," write "I anticipate that I shall have finished my initial tasks before midday tomorrow."
That's excellent for forcing the active use of more formal or future perfect constructions that we don't naturally use in simple daily speech.
Another strong reflective technique is the summary of emotion. At the end of the day, identify the strongest emotion you felt and dedicate a short paragraph to analyzing why you felt that way. This requires specialized emotional vocabulary: frustrated, elated, ambivalent, resolute, and it trains you to articulate complex feelings in English.
That's difficult, but very useful. Often, we can name basic emotions in a new language, but articulating the nuances is the real challenge in achieving fluency and depth of communication.
And this helps with the recharge element too. Processing strong emotions through writing is often therapeutic. Doing so in English doubles the benefit.
Let's talk about vocabulary review again, but specifically how to make it relaxing. Flashcards before bed seems like the opposite of relaxing.
It certainly can be. I suggest using a spaced repetition system like Anki, but restrict your evening session to reviewing only 5 cards. And crucially, don't use the stressful, hard fail buttons. If you can't remember immediately, simply check the answer and tell yourself, "I'll see that again tomorrow."
You're turning the review into simple recognition rather than high-pressure recall.
Exactly. The primary function of evening review is familiarity, not immediate mastery. You want to see the word and think, "Ah, yes, I know you," even if you couldn't produce it quickly.
We also need to consider the impact of screen light. Many people do their reading or watching on phones or tablets right before sleep.
That's a key practical consideration. Blue light is notorious for disrupting sleep. If your evening routine involves screen time, whether reading an ebook in English or watching a short video, you must activate the blue light filter, often called night shift or comfort view, on your device.
Or, even better, switch to physical books or use warm, indirect lighting if possible. Reading a physical English novel for 10 minutes before sleep is the perfect low-tech, high-reward evening routine.
It is. Choose a genre that is easy to follow, not overly dense or abstract, and simply enjoy the process of reading in English, letting your mind wander with the narrative. This is true unwinding in English.
Let's summarize our 3 key vocabulary words and the associated activities we discussed for the listeners to cement this advice.
Excellent idea. First, we have unwind. This means to relax after a period of work. Your activities here should be low stress, such as listening to ambient English podcasts or audiobooks at a slower speed.
Second, reflect. This means to think deeply or carefully about something. The activities associated with reflection are the brief journaling exercises, the 3-minute daily recap, or short voice recordings to process the day's learning.
And third, recharge. To restore energy. Here we use short, curated media like 5-minute educational videos, ensuring we are not draining our mental energy, but rather restoring it while keeping the English language environment active.
These 3 pillars, unwind, reflect, recharge, provide a solid framework for creating a relaxing, effective evening routine that consistently reinforces your English learning without causing burnout.
Consistency, even in small doses, is far more valuable than sporadic, intense study. 10 minutes every evening tied to an anchor event will dramatically improve your long-term retention and overall comfort level in the language.
Absolutely. We hope this has given you some great ideas for how to integrate English practice seamlessly into your winding down process.
Thank you for tuning in today. Remember, if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, like, and share it so we can help more learners optimize their study time.
Until next time, keep practicing and enjoy those cozy English evenings. Good night, Emma.
Good night, Liam.